What we have right here is a 2025 Lexus UX300h. We have two electric motors in the front, one in the rear, all-wheel drive, F-Sport package in this ultrasonic blue metallic color. I do think it looks pretty decent. It's called an SUV. I feel like the category of hatchbacks are sort of extinct these days because this is essentially a hatchback and not an SUV. But in order to sell it here in the United States, calling it an SUV is going to bring in more sales. It is a lot smaller than I expected. As I said, a hybrid setup with the electric power in addition to a 2-liter inline-4. So what we're going to do in this video is have a look at this design from the front. A very stylistic design for this car, all over the lines everywhere in this car, front, side, rear. We're also going to check out the pretty cool looking interior, and of course we're going to take this for a drive. Now before we go in and talk about this design of the 2025 Lexus UX300h all-wheel drive, let's have a look at what's under the hood. We have a 2-liter naturally aspirated inline-4 with 3 e-motors. You have 2 in the front and 1 in the back, creating all-wheel drive, of course. Total power output is about 196 horsepower. You have a CVT gearbox. I do wish we had a traditional gearbox in this case. All-wheel drive, as I said, 0 to 60 takes about 7.2 seconds. Top speed 110 miles per hour. However, the fuel economy here is absolutely bananas. 44 city, 40 highway, giving you a range of about 400 miles on a full tank, which is absolutely fantastic. And the price for this, as tested with the F-Sport package here, is $48,395. And the thing is, to me personally, having the F-Sport package on this car, the UX300, doesn't make sense because it's not a sporty car. If I were to get this, I would get it in the most basic configuration as possible, because that is what you want if you're going for an entry-level Lexus like this one is. Otherwise, you might as well step it up to the NX or even the RX, which has, first of all, proper gearboxes, and also feels more luxurious than this. You can see that we even have a prop rod here for the UX, saving some money on pieces like this. So just get it in the basic spec and save a bunch of money would be my preference for this, even though the F-Sport looks better. In this case, it's not a sporty car and it doesn't really make sense to me. So let's close this back down and let's check out what's going on with the Lexus styling, which means that we do have lines, of course, everywhere on this car. I like the ultrasonic blue that we have in this specific version, and of course the L-shaped daytime run lights up front here, creating this very typical Lexus identifier in the front, and also how this corner cuts in and kind of pushes in the grille, this Lexus spindle grille that we have in the front end, everything being blacked out, this being the F-Sport package, meaning that we also have different seats, we have different steering wheel in the interior. We're going to have a look at that in a minute, in addition to the LED fog lights down here. Now I do wish that we did have some functionality for these vents here. These are not functional, doesn't look like it at least. The headlights are completely LED, but we do have, and this is something that I also don't like when companies do, when we have just a regular Edison bulb for the indicator in the front, but in the rear there are still full LED. Just put LEDs in the front as well here. It just makes more sense. And we also have this piece here being blacked out for the F-Sport package. If you go with the non-F-Sport, this is going to have more of a silver design to it. And again, just having everything be blacked out looks better, but for me personally, it would not be worth having the F-Sport package and paying for the package on the UX specifically, since, as I said, it's just not a sporty car, and it doesn't make sense to bring it up to that price level very, very close to what the Lexus NX costs. Now we have, again, a lot of lines here. Look at this line in the hood, cutting through here and creating this curvature in the hood. I've never seen a hood designed in this way. So it still feels like Lexus designers have a lot of fun designing their cars, adding a lot of lines into the surfaces of the cars. We also have one line cutting right here. It sort of doesn't have a connection to anything going on up top, but it still creates a very unique design for the UX. The design itself, clearly Lexus, they have really nailed their identity the last couple of years, specifically when it comes to the headlight design and also the spindle grille that is huge, but still very, very much Lexus. Behind this huge Lexus logo in the front end is where we have the radar for the cruise control integrated hidden behind there. I like that integration a lot better than what we see, for example, in BMWs today, just having a big square in the grille. It just doesn't look that good. So coming around to the side view and the overstyling, I would call this probably an overstyled car to me. It doesn't look that great in my opinion. I think it's too much going on here. But the wheel setup, in this case we do have the F Sport wheels, 255 18s. I think we have that all around. So 18-inch wheels in this specific package for this size of car. I think it looks pretty good. Very unusual to see just 18-inch wheels, specifically when you have a sporty car like this, to just have them be 18. Normally they at least go up to 19s, but we have 255s in the rear. We actually have 225s, a little bit smaller size for the tires in the front end. You can see how the shoulder line just goes all over the place. It wraps around the front axle into the side mirror right here, and then comes back in a lower section and swoops through the front door handle over above the rear door handle, and then into really nothing. It doesn't have a clear connection to some graphic features in the rear. And we also have this lower section with this line cutting out right there, and also doesn't really have any connection to, if you follow this line and extend it, I would like to see it connect to something, some key element in the rear. But the color is great, really sparkles, and I think Lexus, when it comes to metallic and pearl colors, they're one of the best to just nail the color options for their cars. Up top, blacked out roof. You can see we have a two-tone design here with the black spoiler in the rear and the black roof, standard sunroof here as well, and a little shark fin antenna in the back. Now coming around to the rear end, and in this case I'm gonna have to say it, that this is in fact my favorite view for this car. I think this is where you can feel this Lexus upscale design, and specifically when you look at the graphics and the taillight design, how beautifully integrated they are in this sort of mess of lines going on here. But I think the taillight graphics with a thicker piece here and creating this horn up top, you can see how this area sticks up here and how it goes into a very, very thin and very crisp light bar in the middle. Now Lexus, they kind of I'm okay with Lexus having light bars in the rear because they've had it for such a long time now, and it also feels like it connects both ends nicely to have a connection there, a key graphic connection, which is the light bar in the middle. We have the wiper located on the window, which is fine for this price level. At $48,000 we could maybe extend the spoiler up top and have this be hidden underneath, but to me in this case it's not really a big deal. All the way down low you can see that we don't have a very sporty looking diffuser, but we do have a diffuser nonetheless with this blacked out features and these sort of black chrome pieces coming back like we have in some pieces in the front end. Reflector light, reverse light located right there as well. You can hear the engine firing up now. You can drive this in full EV mode if you want to. All-wheel drive UX300H. This is how you know that this is a 2025 model year with the H here at the very end. The design didn't really change from 2024. It still looks the same as the 2024 model year except for the badging in the back. Now here you can see the indicators, what I'm talking about, having light bulbs in the front end, and then we have LEDs in the rear. Just put LEDs in the front end as well. That would be so much nicer to have specifically for a Lexus. Now this being I'm gonna call this a hatchback because to me that is pretty much what this is. It's not, I mean, look at the proportions here. I don't know what you would call this, a hatchback or an SUV. You do have about 6.2 or 6.3 inches of ground clearance here, so it sits a little higher than a regular hatchback. But the overall proportion, specifically when we have these panels body painted here, creating more of this hatchback look, in my opinion. Now, checking out the space back here, you don't get a lot of space, as this is a very small car. And you can see just how high up the floor sits. If we open this up, you do have more storage down here, first aid kits, but it's still pretty shallow in my opinion. We do have some LEDs here as well, on both sides, on the left side and on the right side. And again, you can fold down the seats, and the cool thing about this, when you fold down these seats here, first of all, you can reach them very easily since it's such a small car, and you also get almost a flat level surface here when you fold down the rear seats, which of course is great for longer stuff back here. Let's close this back down and let's have a look at what's going on in the interior for the 2025 Lexus UX300h. This is where you can feel this Lexus quality. The door panel feels a little less stylized, maybe minimalistic compared to what's going on for the exterior design, but the feel for the buttons and the level of quality in the small details are still Lexus-like in this case. This being the F Sport, you do have the memory seat settings here. You also have the controls for the windows, up and down automatic for both the front windows, and the controls for the mirrors are located here with some storage at the bottom. Speaker integrated in the door as well. F Sport, I do like that we get some specific treatment like this for the F Sport, and the seats are also specific for the F Sport. A lot more sportier seats with a lot more bolstering than we get if you were to not equip this with the F Sport package, power assisted of course. So with that said, let's jump in here. Yeah, let's fire this up. Now the first thing you notice when you jump in here is the screen setup. We have dual 12.3-inch screens, one for the gauge cluster, of course for the infotainment screen here, wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto as well. I do like this setup. It's a pretty easy system to figure out. If we go into vehicle settings here, you can see all-wheel drive. You can see how much power is going to each axle. You have the energy flow. If we put it in drive, you can see that we do get some animations of how the energy is flowing from the battery, or if we start to brake here, you can see that it goes back into the battery. Pretty cool graphics here for the energy flow. We have Bluetooth devices and so on. Going back into vehicle driving assist settings, you have a bunch of different driving assist on and off toggles here, which probably you're just gonna set one time, and that's about it. Let's put it back into park. We have the navigation taking up the entire screen. Now, it's not the most modern looking navigation system in my opinion, but again, I would personally always use Apple CarPlay for this system, and that's what I'm using when I'm driving this car. Further down, we have some nice integrations of the vents with the hazard button right here in the middle. Easy to figure out, high quality feel for these buttons, and that is probably what you're paying the premium Lexus price for, because it's not the performance in this car. It's not a very quick car, it's not a very sporty car as I said, but the overall feel for the interior. We have soft touch material here, soft touch here as well, and even up here is soft touch material. So the quality for the interior feels very, very upscale. I also like that we have some red stitching here with the F Sport package. Now moving further down, we have the start button right there, and I do like that we have physical toggles for all the climate control settings here. Fan speed, for example, temperature, where you want the air to blow out from, circulating air, and all of this. Very easy to figure this out, and you clearly can see what it is you're adjusting with these buttons. So great job in this area by Lexus. $75 is the option to equip this with a wireless charger, and that is something that you definitely want to do. I mean, for 75 bucks, definitely makes sense to have this wireless charger here. 2 USB-Cs, couple of cup holders here in the middle. This is what the key looks like. A typical Lexus key. It's been around for a while now. I still think it looks pretty good, the design of the key. Lock, unlock, hold to open the trunk, and panic button. You also have the Lexus stamped out here, very small at the very bottom. Nicely stylized key with the textures and materials that we have with the Lexus logo on the back as well. Gear selector right here, very small. Putting it into reverse, we don't have a 360 camera for the UX300, but that's totally fine for me since this is such a small little car. You're not going to have any issues whatsoever, you know, parking this in tight spaces because it doesn't really get smaller than this. We also have trajectory lines here, as you can see, and pretty wide screen. The resolution could definitely be a little better than this, specifically for a Lexus. I mean, the resolution is very, very grainy, but you can still see what's going on behind you, no problems at all. So putting it back into park, we have EV mode here, heated and ventilated seats in 3 different levels, in addition to the heated steering wheel in 2 different levels. Interesting location for those buttons here, but I like it. I like when they have separate pieces like this, or separate small little control panels for settings that you're going to be adjusting a lot on the go. Now, the armrest opens up 2 ways. You can open it this way, like that, and you do have some storage down here, not the biggest storage space, a 12-volt outlet in addition to a regular good old USB outlet as well. You can also open it from the passenger side. Now looking at the seats here, F Sport package seats. I love the design of these seats. Very, very comfortable seats. These feel like they belong to a much more upscale model than the UX300. I like that we have also F Sport in the headrests here, embossed in the headrests, makes it feel a little bit more special. Up top, as we talked about when we looked at the exterior, we do have a standard size sunroof that you can open all the way if you want to do that. Coming around to the steering wheel, again, F Sport package gives you a specific steering wheel. You do have the F Sport right here, in addition to some customizations for the gauge cluster. You can customize it, not too much, but just a little bit. For example, the center portion here, we're in sport mode now. I do like that we have the rev counter up top and just a simple layout like this. This is probably my preferred layout. You have the controls for the drive modes located up here. It looks almost like two cut-off horns that stick out from the top of the dash. You just twist this, and that is how you switch the drive mode from Sport to Sport S or to Sport S Plus. If you press this button, it's going to go back into normal mode, and this is what the gauge cluster looks in normal mode. Again, you can configure this just a little bit to show you different types of graphics and information to figure out which one you prefer. On the right side of the steering wheel, you have the controls for the cruise control settings. On the left side, the controls for the voice command and also configuring the gauge cluster, in addition to the volume knobs here. We do have paddles on this, and again, like CVTs with paddles, they just don't make sense to me, but in this case, we still have them here. This is not a car that I would ever use with the paddles. This is a car that I would use to just take me from point A to point B, and that is, again, the reason why I would not spend money paying for the F Sport package on a car like this. I would just keep it as basic as possible. We have the light settings and the indicator settings here on the left side, and the washer stock on the right side. All the way down here, we have a couple more buttons for the brightness for the gauge cluster, in addition to an additional vent. And all the way down here, you have the controls to open the trunk and the fuel cap. Last but not least, you do have a pretty solid sized glove box in the front end as well. So with that said, let's jump in and check out the back seat. Now, this is my personal driving position, like this, being 6'1", 6'2". So it's going to be interesting to see if I can actually fit behind myself in this small little hatchback. I'm not going to call it an SUV because I want to bring back more hatchbacks in this case. So we do have the same sort of styling in the rear. Hard material up top. Of course, this is a little softer padding for the armrest. Nice looking door handle. You can see just how tight it looks back here. Not sure if I'm actually going to fit behind myself. It is pretty cramped, as you can see. I need to have my legs way on the sides of the front end seats in order to fit back here. No climate settings back here. I don't really think it's needed because it's such a small cabin, but you do have two USB-Cs all the way down there, in addition to a couple of vents. And if we fold down the center armrest, yes, we do find ourselves two cup holders here as well. Now, personally, I'm having a little bit of a hard time trying to figure out who would buy the Lexus UX300h. The only reason, the only category of people that would buy this, in my opinion, would be people who, first of all, they're fans of Lexus, and second of all, they don't want to spend a lot of money on a Lexus. They just want an entry-level model, and thirdly, they do want great fuel economy, because that is, I think, where this car really shines. I mean, 44 mpgs, city, 40 highway, a range of over close to 400 miles on a full tank. That is fantastic numbers. However, when it comes to the price point, specifically when you equip it like this one, like we have right here, with the F Sport package, and this ultrasonic blue color, for example, it's coming very, very close to $50,000, and that's overlapping with the Lexus NX, which is the step up from this. And then, of course, higher than that, you do have the Lexus RX, which is one of my favorite cars, favorite SUVs from Lexus, both when it comes to the drivability and also the styling for that car. I do think it's a great looking SUV. Looks, in my opinion, better than this, a little bit more restrained, a little bit more grown up, even though this definitely still have a lot of Lexus lines in it. So let's step on it here. 196 horsepower, It's not a fast car whatsoever. It doesn't feel fast. It doesn't even feel like you have that instant electric torque from the get-go, even though you do have 3 electric motors in this, 2 in the front, 1 in the rear, giving you this all-wheel drive that we have in this car. But when it comes to the driving, we do have the F-Sport suspension as well, meaning we do have adaptive suspension in this car, but it really doesn't make it any more sporty, in my opinion. This is just a small, comfortable, I'm not sure if I would say stylish, because the exterior design is just, in my opinion, too over-stylized, but it's a very comfortable, small little SUV/hatchback. And for this price range, if I were looking for something fun to drive, for a small hatchback for around $50,000, I would get myself a 2023 or a 2024 Volkswagen Golf R with a manual transmission. Still have the all-wheel drive. The fuel economy is not going to be nowhere near as good as this one. But if that's what you're looking for, a fun hatchback in this price range, to me, the Golf R is just the obvious choice. But I do think, again, these are 2 different categories of buyers. I do think the Lexus buyers are more maybe a little bit older. They still always maybe wanted to have a Lexus, and this just came on the market with the great fuel economy, and it also has all the Lexus qualities on the interior. The interior feels fantastic, still has that Lexus feel to it. And I do think those would probably choose this one over Golf R. But if you're any sort of driving enthusiast, the Golf R is just much better choice for this size of vehicle when it comes to fun to drive. So let's put it in eco, and let's just cruise along here. We're doing about 50 miles per hour right now. The comfort is fantastic, and that is something that Lexus always nails. It doesn't matter if you have a big LS sedan or a GX SUV or a small UX like we have here. The comfort is always on point. Usually when you get a smaller car like this, it's going to affect the comfort a little bit because you don't have as much hardware underneath to cushion the ride. But in some way, Lexus, even though they make these small cars, small SUVs, it's still a super comfortable ride. And that is, I guess, another reason why you want to go UX over, for example, something a little bit more sporty, even though we do have the F-Sport suspension, which I would want to have be more aggressive than this. So let's put it into Sport Plus, Sport S Plus. We have Sport S, Sport S Plus. And of course, this CVT gearbox doesn't really help with the sporty driving characteristics. It always sounds like a scooter to me, like it's just working overtime just to move the car forward. Going onto the on-ramp here, flooring it, we're going downhill, and we're up to 70 right there. So the performance, 196 horsepower, I do wish we had it closer to 250 maybe. That would maybe make a little bit more sense, and if we slapped in an 8-speed automatic, maybe even a 6-speed automatic would be nice for this car. I think that would help the making it feel a little bit more like a Lexus than what we have right here. But as I said, the interior is fantastic. Do like everything that we have in here, specifically the physical buttons for the climate settings down here, and that we do have a big 12.3-inch infotainment screen that doesn't, in my opinion, feel like it's a bad integration. It feels pretty decent to me to have it horizontal like this, and we do have some styling features on the framing for it, so it's not just a boring square. Love the gauge clusters of Lexus. They do it very well, specifically with the housing for it, and every single control in here, even the vents, feel high quality, definitely higher quality than you're gonna get in, for example, a Volkswagen Golf R. But since we're on the highway here, let's put it back into, let's just press it and put it into normal. The noise at highway speeds, you do get a lot of wind noise, more wind noise than I was expecting to hear from this. There's also a substantial amount of road noise, but these are two things that I really never care about, because I've said this before. When I'm driving a car, I want to feel like I don't want to feel like I'm completely secluded from the outside. I want to feel like I'm in a machine and that I'm actually on a road. It doesn't bother me that I hear a little bit of wind noise, road noise, except if I'm in a Rolls-Royce, Bentley S-Class, LS, something like that, 7 Series, then of course I want to have dual pane windows to really shelter me from the outside exterior noises. But in a small car like this, or pretty much every other car than a upscale luxury car, I still want to have some mechanical noises and some noise from the road noise. It doesn't bother me at all. So to sum this car up, as I said, it's very hard for me to find the specific buyer for this specific Lexus, the smallest UX. I think it is someone who loves the brand Lexus, always wanted to have a Lexus, great fuel economy, and that pretty much it. That would be the buyer for this one. But again, then you have the NX, which is very close in price to this. So it's a difficult choice there to figure out if you want to go NX, which also, by the way, has a CVT gearbox. You got to step it up to the RX, I do believe, if you want a proper traditional gearbox in your Lexus SUV. So it's a tough sale for me. This is not a car that I personally would ever consider buying because it doesn't feel like it's my personality to have a car like this. But if you're someone who want to go from point A to point B in a Lexus and not spend a ton of money and also save a lot on gas, this might be the SUV for you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.